It is time for us to make dating fun again and to stop allowing dates to feel like job interviews. Hi, my name is Keisha Rice. I am a dating coach. I'm also a hypnotherapist. I help women learn how to ditch toxic relationship patterns and learn how to attract healthy, fulfilling relationships. And instead of talking about my clients, I'm actually going to talk about some friends of mine right now. I have more than one friend who is single and who has been pursuing her purpose partner, who's also decided that right now they want to take a break from dating. And to some extent, I actually think that that is a good thing because at the end of the day, dating is data collection. You are putting yourself out there, you are meeting different men, and the purpose of that is to learn what you like and what you don't like, to see what makes you compatible to someone. You're also improving your communication skills, all these different things. And if you've been going on a fair number of dates, at some point you have a fair amount of data collected, which means that it may not be a bad idea if you've been going on a lot of dates and you're not having success to take some time off and to sit and process and realize, okay, so what are these dates having in common? What am I learning about what I like and what I don't like? And then, you take that time to process, and then when you go back out into the dating pool, you're more informed and you're better prepared for the next go round. On the other hand, the reason why I see women taking breaks from dating is not because of that, but because they're dealing with burnout and because they're dealing with boring dates that, again, feel like job interviews. So I'm gonna pull up my notes and we're going to talk about how it is that you fix that. If you've ever been exhausted by, going on a date and you're having dinner and maybe you're, talking about your day and things like that. And it goes from being the, generic small talk to being grilled on, have you ever been married before? Do you have kids? Uh, what are you looking for? What do you want in a partner? What are you trying to get in a relationship? It seems efficient. It seems efficient to do things that way because then you're just like checking off the ways in which you are and aren't compatible. But what you don't get when you're doing that is you don't get a real feel for who the person is. And if they're doing that to you, they're not getting a feel for who you are. Because people can look great on paper. Before I got married, I was in relationships with men who, if you put like our attributes next to each other on a sheet of paper, great match. But there are just some intangibles about relationships and about love that you can't account for when you are doing things that way. And if that is the case, if that's what you've been experiencing a lot lately, I want to validate you and acknowledge that dating can be frustrating, right? Um, Especially if you are not just dating for the plot, if you are serious about finding the right person for you, dating can come with so many frustrations. And it's even worse when you feel like you're being judged or you feel like you have to pass a test in order to get to that second date. That energy of being interviewed or of doing the interview, it leaves you walking away drained. Um, it comes from a place of fear. It comes from a fear of you don't want to waste your time. You don't want to get hurt again. You don't want to make mistakes. So you may feel like if you go in there with a checklist and ask all the rapid fire questions, then again, you're getting all the things out the way to know whether or not this person is worthy of your time. But operating from that place of fear, it blocks any fun, any playfulness in the relationship. And no man is going to fall for you because of your amazing Q&A questions, just like he's not going to fall for you because you perfectly answered his. Instead, they're going to be drawn in by your presence. For all of this talk online about feminine energy and what it means to operate in your feminine, At the end of the day, feminine energy is about going with the flow and being present. And having these HR type interview questions, it blocks that fun and it blocks that flow. So you want to shift from taking on this attitude of going on a date to hire a man, to hire the role of husband, to see how you actually enjoy or don't enjoy being around him, to really evaluating how it is that you feel around this person, not just the answers to the questions that you have. So instead of trying to like run a background check on someone, think about curiosity, think about building connection, and see this as an opportunity to really get to know another person, especially when it comes to Christian women, because there's such a pressure on us to get married, to be fruitful and multiply and start families and all of that. Um, there's often just this pressure to get everything right and to fulfill the role. And that takes away from the fact that you can find someone who checks off all the boxes, but if you're going to marry this person and spend the next 50, 60 years with them, you don't want it to be boring. You want to actually enjoy your time around them, right? And instead of being so focused on making sure this person answers properly, and instead of feeling like if this date doesn't work out, it is a failure and having this whole marriage or bust mentality, think about the value of just getting to know other people. Humans are wired to connect with each other. And even if this person isn't your husband, they're still a person who deserves dignity and respect. And you never know. You may be able to connect with them in some other way. Maybe this becomes a friendship. Maybe this becomes a professional business connection. Maybe they're not right for you, but they're right for someone else that you know. But either way, come from a place of curiosity. So instead of asking a question like, what are your long-term goals? Um, ask how they enjoy spending their weekend, right? Or instead of asking, you know, what do you do for a living? Ask them what is it that they love about their job the most? What lights up their day the most? Or ask if money were no object, what would you spend all of your time doing? Asking questions like that opens the door for follow-up questions. It opens up the door for storytelling, and it just makes for a more pleasurable experience than the generic, what do you do for a living? Or what is your job? Where do you work? So ask questions that allow him to open up and so that you can really get a feel for who he is, instead of questions that can be answered with a yes or a no, or questions that can be, one or two word answers and then quickly shut down. So the way that you're going to do that is, one, you're going to loosen the agenda. And I said I wouldn't talk about my clients, but when I am working with someone, one of the things that I encourage is it is fine to have questions that you want to ask on a first date or on a second or third date, but frame those more around general topics or specific topics than a specific question. And also allow for there to be some flow, not I have a list of 10 questions. I need to get them out on this first date. You know, ask one or two, do it in a way that is more open, like I mentioned, and then see where the conversation naturally goes. Because oftentimes things will come up that you wouldn't have thought to ask about. And those could be red flags that now that you had that openness, you heard these things, and now you know that you're not that compatible. Or they could be things that are green flags that encourage you to, keep pursuing this. You can hold high standards for someone and you can allow the process to unfold naturally. Like those two things aren't mutually exclusive. You also want to add some playfulness into the discussion. And that means instead of the typical coffee date or, dinner, things like that, try going on dates that involve doing an activity, bowling, skating, uh, sipping paint, things like that, where you're not just, sitting across from each other talking and making it out to be like an interview, but you're having this shared experience, which is going to make things more fun. It also increases the likelihood of a man developing attraction for you because the hormone for men that regulates attraction is vasopressin, and that is increased through shared experiences, not through just sitting and talking, right? Um, but it encourages the chemistry to grow more quickly. And again, when someone is in a more relaxed environment, they're more likely to be vulnerable and open up, and you can learn a lot more things about them. And then I want you to flip the script from evaluating this person like it were a job interview in your HR to really evaluating yourself. When you are with him, how do you feel? What emotions are coming up? Um, are you able to laugh? Are you able to feel relaxed? Do you feel seen? And once you evaluate that energy, then you need to trust that energy. If you are feeling guarded, if you're feeling tense, if you're feeling like you're on trial, then you need to take a step back. You need to take a moment and ask yourself, why are you feeling that way? And if you feel light, if you're having fun, then this is connection that's worth exploring. So, scripture reminds us that joy is one of the fruits of the spirit, right? And if going on dates is causing you a lot of stress, then you're in a situation that is not God's best for you. Again, that doesn't mean that you have to stop dating completely, but it does mean that you probably need to rethink your approach. You need to rethink how you are going about these dates. And you're allowed to take your time getting to know someone and to also just enjoy the process and not feel so rushed to decide on one date whether or not this man is your husband. Instead, you need to show up from a place of peace, right? You need to show up from a place of being calm, being centered in your energy, and allow the men you date to gravitate towards that sense of calm and peace. Um, Instead of attracting men who thrive on game playing or who thrive on pressure. Like that's not something you want to attract into your life anyways. So when you learn how to balance discernment with joy and with curiosity, you are going to thrive in dating situations. And you're also going to feel more comfortable with expressing your wants and your needs and your boundaries. So, inside my program, which is called From Toxic to Thriving, I work with women one on one and we go step by step on how to create those connections and how to build those boundaries so that you stop attracting men who waste your time and instead call in ones who are ready for the same level of commitment as you and who are ready to also come at it from a place of curiosity and genuinely getting to know you. So you don't have to choose between commitment and being serious about that and joy. You can have both at the same time. So just to recap, as you're going on dates, you need to stop interviewing and you need to start connecting. You also need to choose to be more playful and pay attention to how you feel. Dating does not have to be a draining experience. You can make it exciting again. You can make dating fun again, right? And when you do, you are going to increase your chances of meeting someone who is going to feel like home, who's going to feel compatible, and who is going to increase the calm and the peace in your life. So, again, if you're ready to make that shift, you can head to the link in the description and work with me one on one. In the meantime, let me know what you're doing to make going out more fun. I'll talk to you later. Love you so much. Bye.